Dolphin fans. Let's go! What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one. In fact, this is the 4th annual edition of this regular season roundtable. We've had some faces here from the start. Well, I think all of you have been here from the start. But anyways, here we are again, gentlemen. We are mere days away. And again, we all meet again to talk about our expectations and predictions. Neal, Dougley, Kevin Dern, Mr. BallGame, the legendary Richmond Webb coming in and hitting the shot at the last second like his name is Kobe. And then Martin down there at the bottom coming out from his off-season little seclusion when, quite frankly, we all need a break. Welcome back, Martin. And gentlemen,
thank you.
How are y'all doing today? Neal, Dougley, we'll start with y'all. How y'all doing, boys?
Good. Everything's good. I don't know about the Dolphins on Sunday, but I think this squad could take the Chargers. That's for sure.
That kills me. Kevin, BallGame, Richmond. How are y'all doing? You prepared? How are you feeling? Let's start with you, Richmond. You just look at you, a busy man, episode hopping over here from interviews to roundtables. How you doing, sir?
I'm checking you out with the Lokes on tonight, brother. You
Like
know,
that. I had to bring the pitties out. I had to bring the pitties out, baby. This is a celebration.
I thought you had a little tan or something, brother. You got a little
talking
shade
about?
on
You don't see the tan. You can see where the Oakleys were rocking life over here.
Yeah.
What buddy? What you talking about, bro?
I see you.
Greek status, Greek god status minus the abs, brother. What you know about that? How you doing?
I don't know. I'm doing good. College football started back, so had a great Labor Day weekend. I know Mr. BallGame here. Them Seminoles look mighty good.
Not as good as
Sunday
Colorado,
night.
though. Let's call a spade here, baby.
Colorado
What are you talking
good.
about? We shut LSU out in the second half down there. What are you talking about?
Come on, bro.
Them nose, come on, them nose look good, bro.
They
Them
look
nose
They
look
worked
good, bro.
3 years
They
ago.
look
They
good.
went to
Keon
work 3
Coleman.
years ago.
Yeah, hey, they were ranked number 5. We don't have
Listen,
anything to do.
my
We play
problem is
who on the schedule, baby.
I used
play
to be
who
the
on the
biggest
schedule.
fan of what's his face, the Arizona quarterback who's now the quarterback there. What was his name?
Jaden Daniels. Yeah.
Jaden Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you look at where he was that first year when he beat Herbert and where he is now, man. I thought he was gonna be a lot better than what he was.
It's all Brian Kelly, man, and he want to blame it on the kids, but I can't get on. I can't get on board with that. Yeah. You coached to change the lives of the kids and put something into their toolbox so they can be successful week in and week out. Those kids put what they had in them on the field, and he couldn't help them. He had nothing to help them. And when you got a coach down on the sideline looking on the sideline like this, and he with his hands up like, what's going on? That means you didn't prepare well.
You want me to be honest with you? I think they're one of the most overhyped teams, and I think they got the ranking based on the 3 letters. That's it. LSU. That's it. I think they're an overhyped team, to be honest with you. Kevin, what's good? Martin, what's good?
I'm good, man. Just trying to finish up a fantasy draft as we get into this, and then I'll echo what Mr. BallGame said. I had a friend who played for Brian Kelly at Cincinnati, and he might be one of the top 5 sleaziest guys I know of in college football.
Sleazy slime ball.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, I caught some of the games this past weekend. It feels like football just ended like a few months ago, man, and we're right back at it, man. That just goes to show, man.
That's because you've been off YouTube the whole time, brother. That's why it feels like that.
But it never dies, though, man. It's a year-round sport, no matter what it is. And, as far as the kickoff, I saw the Colorado game, pleasantly surprised. But, man, there's still so many glaring issues with Colorado, even though this is not what we're discussing. Man, I mean, the front 7 kind of struggled. Kickoff team struggled. But other than that, man, it was a good game. It was a good back and forth. TCU is better than what they're giving credit for. Colorado just made more plays at the end of the day. That's just what happened. So,
you know as well as I do. You know what, Martin? You know as well as I do. Deion said they're going to struggle up front because they're not that big. He didn't get an opportunity to get the great, the big fat, elephant and rhino DTs that he wanted. So you got to get what you got. But what he did say, what he did tell you was that when we on offense, you're going to have to think you better hold on. So
that's true.
College football is all about lighting up the scoreboards. So if you can't score with them, they're going to run you out of the stadium. So it is what it is.
It's going to be fun.
Got to get one stop. That's all they need.
What do you think of Devin Leary, Neal?
He transferred to Kentucky.
Yeah, and everyone's hyping him as honestly, jumping up to the first round and after.
I think he's going to get lost in the shuffle. I mean, this quarterback class is unbelievable, man. Like it's not just Caleb Williams and Drake May. There's JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr.
But look at Michael Penix, perfect example to Jaden Daniels. Look at Michael Penix's growth as a passer. And look at Jaden Daniels. He hasn't built the body. You haven't seen him look at the trajectory. Jaden Daniels, they came out around the same time, and Michael Penix, sloppy mechanics, really need to get cleaned up, transferred. He's cleaned up, and while Jaden Daniels is kind of getting lost in the shuffle now, when you would have looked at them back then, you would have looked, man, when Jaden Daniels fills out, that's a first-round quarterback, and now. No, but look at Michael Penix. That's a perfect example.
Yeah, Joe Milton from Tennessee is another
Buddy,
guy.
that arm, bro.
He's playing good ball. And then ball games guy, Jordan Travis. Don't sleep on him. He's a player, man.
He was good last year too, right?
Yeah, he's a player. This is a really good quarterback group.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man. And don't forget about the rise of
Duke for real though.
Sanders,
Riley Leonard. There's another guy, Duke.
Is Duke for real?
Riley Leonard, I know a lot of people are high on him too, right?
Yeah,
their left tackle's good too.
Yeah,
Graham Barton.
Yeah, that kid's a stud, man.
Right.
Right behind him all last night, bro. That dude, good lord.
And Clemson does have a good defensive front.
Football
so
season, baby.
Tested. I mean, they have both those defensive tackles. They still have what's that 6-year senior Xavier Thomas. There's some players there, man.
Yep.
Barrett Carter and Jeremiah Trotter on the defense. I just think that like you said, the quarterbacks that light up the scoreboard. Clemson doesn't have one of those.
Yeah, DJU, talk about a guy who was so touted coming out. Right, he was even in that. Was he in that QB1? He was in that QB1 show too. Remember the one with Spencer Rattler? He was in.
He out there at Oregon State now, though. He lit it up this weekend.
Yeah, he looked good.
And look at what Spencer Rattler turned into.
Dabo, man. I'm telling you, bro. It's Dabo.
Remember? Dabo. Look what he did to Trevor Lawrence, bro. Like, Trevor Lawrence was regressing by the time.
Look what he did to my cousin Willie. When my cousin Willie Simmons was up there as his quarterback, he did the same thing. He did the same thing to Willie, man.
I didn't know.
Yeah, that's my cousin.
Yeah, because I've the problem is when you get to these places, they're factories, bro. So it's not, they don't have time to develop you. It's put the best athletes on the field at the best positions. Wow. Let the athletes play the game and hope it works out, and just churn over because you'll keep getting high level guys because of, again, like LSU, the name, the brand, right? Like that's what it's. That's
they're gonna have a problem in Texas though. No, Texas A&M. And what is that? No, it's Texas. Texas gonna have a problem because their quarterback went down and the fans was up in the stands booing because they didn't put Manning in.
No,
they put the other kid in. Yeah, man. Archie Manning is over there, bro, and they want to see him play like ASAP.
Yeah, but don't.
And that kid, Edwards kid, is that him?
Yeah.
What's his name? Neal.
What that other kid? The guy who had the mullet. Yeah, Ewers or whatever. The guy who had the mullet.
Ewers.
Yeah, him. Yeah, he got hurt. Yeah, he got hurt. Yeah. So then they put that big quarterback in. I can't think of his name, but they wanted Manning, so they're gonna have some stink over there. You know,
but if Arch isn't ready, it's not gonna happen.
We're 15 minutes in. We're on college football. Let's get this rolling here, okay? Jesus, Lord Almighty.
All right, let's get it.
All right, so let's start off with today the depth chart. We'll start off with you, Doug. I've already made my feelings known. I don't buy it for a second. Isaiah Wynn, left guard 1. The depth chart came out today. Are you buying or are you selling Liam Eichenberg starting at left guard, or even making it halfway or a quarter through the season at left guard?
I pray to God that it's just like a semantic type thing, and they're like, oh, we're just we don't know yet, so we're just putting it out there. I hope they're smart enough, but again, the Dolphins really haven't had a good offensive line since 2016, so I constantly put my faith in them that they know what they're doing, and then they constantly let me down. But Isaiah Wynn showed throughout all preseason, training camp, everything, that he is the starting left guard. Stop messing around. Don't put Liam Eichenberg out there, because God forbid, just Isaiah Wynn. Especially if Armstead's not playing, you cannot put Liam Eichenberg out there.
Yeah, that's a better point too. And look at our run game. Look at the difference in. Okay, listen, I get his feet need a little work, and I get it. The things he needs to work on in pass pro. But you look at the jump in the run game from the moment Myles Gaskin got his first big carry when Isaiah Wynn came in during the preseason. Like, why are we? Listen, this is with so much on the line, and with the expectations we're all going to get into here. Can you agree, Doug? This is not the hill to die on when this team it's probably going to be the most talented roster we have in this window to win, because we're going to lose guys like potentially Jerome Baker, Xavier Howard, etc. And especially with the offensive line minds that we have. What would you think about? Would you agree that this is not the hill to die on?
Yeah, this wasn't the hill to die on back in March. Like I understand that they really wanted to see what Austin Jackson could do. He was a former first round pick, and you need to see, is there a future with him, or do you got to move on? But there were so many like viable options. Like McGarry, I talk about him constantly. Signed a $5.5 million contract to go back with Atlanta. Next year he's making 12.5. He was like the fourth best tackle in the NFL, and the Dolphins didn't even sniff it because they wanted to see what Jackson could do. So, yeah, 100%, this is not the hill to die on, especially if you need to see, like Chris Greer came out and said, we're going to wait till the season's over to decide if we're giving to a long-term contract. Well, then you better put a brick wall in front of him. Don't have him running for his life. The past couple seasons, he's like bottom of the bottom of the barrel when it comes to time to throw. But you constantly, we'll just RPO it. We'll just continue to RPO it, and he'll throw the slants that he's good at. And how about you give him a second and let him actually be able to read the defense, so people don't come up with false narratives about spot throwing, one read, and it just drives me nuts. Like, we were all banging the table for offensive line, and then they were like, "No, we're good. We're good. We'll add some. We'll pick up the acorns," as Greer likes to say, and we'll add those in." And it's just like.
And the one guy they do draft, they waive.
Exactly. And then he gets claimed by the Colts. You knew for a fact he was in that package. And then they were like, screw it, now we'll just take him. Whatever.
Yeah. Richmond, let's get your thoughts on Liam Eichenberg potentially starting at left guard. And, I mean, where you're at with that whole situation.
Yeah, I always believe you play the best man. But a lot of times, like you say, since he was a high draft pick for the Dolphins, a lot of time that factors in. But like you said, Dully said, man, when you got a roster stack this high, this good, you want to try to maximize, and you want to come out the gate, swinging. So if he struggles, I think they will pull him. But why go through that when you got a guy that or have shown, not just based on his physique, but based on the way he played throughout the preseason, he really outplayed him. So he should be the starting guard. You want to put your best five out there, especially when you want to protect your quarterback. I mean, I think Tua showed us enough that if you give him the protection, he can be, one of the top quarterbacks in this league. So it just makes sense to, like Dudley said, surround him. They don't have to be the best offensive line, but you could definitely upgrade it more. It probably will be good. So I agree with both of you guys.
Neal, Kevin, BallGame, Martin, you guys got any thoughts on Liam Eichenberg?
Just real quick, they need help in the way they identify offensive linemen, because it's not just the draft, right? Like, they go out and sign a guy like Dan Feeney, and then they take dead cap money to get rid of them. It just doesn't, like, I don't know if they know what they're looking for, so they just try to turn so many stones and make it work. I'm a believer that the best line that this team can have from left to right is Armstead, Lester Cotton, Connor Williams, Isaiah Wynn, and Hunt at right tackle. Like, if Austin Jackson and Liam Eichenberg on the field, I'm going to be worried. And I think it's a shame, because we see how Tua's play will elevate if he has time, if he's not always under duress. And unfortunately, if Eichenberg's out there, man, it's not just him being a bad player, it's the level of bad. He just gets completely dominated, and that pressure right up from the interior. So
Olay. Yeah.
I think what Richmond nailed is right, though. The leash is going to be short. Yeah. I think they're going to give him the starting left job to start, but if it doesn't come out of the gates well, I think they're going to be pretty quick to pull the plug.
BallGame, Kevin, Martin.
I'll piggyback off what Neal said. I think the only way they do start him. Go ahead, BallGame.
No, hold on. Go Kevin, and then okay. BallGame, and then just follow up on him.
I think the only way they would start Eichenberg is if Teron Armstead is going week 1. Now, I've heard some positive
didn't
things
McDaniel
about
declare him the backup center right now? Didn't McDaniel just say that in the presser like a week ago?
Lester Cotton's on the depth chart as the backup center. But both of those guys have done it. So, but I think Wynn will end up being the starter. These are my 2 cents.
Okay. Ball game.
Yeah, I don't think that they'll go into this game being that it's the first game where you got to go make a statement with a guy that's going to get bullied as much as he's probably going to get bullied. I think that the depth chart can be whatever it is, but who gets to start is what matters the most. And I do believe that they've seen enough, and there's been enough film that they've had to watch to know that Liam's still just not there yet. And if they put him out there, he's a liability for Tua, and Wynn is not. So I just believe that on Sunday when the game comes down to it, Isaiah Wynn will get the start. I can say whoever's gonna start all I want. I don't have to. I can change that up. I'm saying 20 minutes before the game start or 5 minutes before the game start. Who I put in there is who I put in there at that point, and that might just be a ploy, I think, for them not to know who's exactly gonna be there, so they can't prepare for them. So teams do this all the time, and there's no way they can be watching this film and think that Liam is ready. So it's just not possible.
Martin,
and if they do, that'd be very saddening.
Buddy, we're gonna watch the film every week. Ball game. We're gonna start even more. All right, go ahead.
It's Isaiah Wynn for me. Offensive linemen that are losing confidence. It can be contagious. We don't need that right now. We need to come out of the gate actually, at full strength. Obviously, with throwing Armstead out, we don't know what's going to happen, but full strength is Isaiah Wynn starting. So let's move on with that, man.
All right, so let's start off with the big question. We all saw it, and we'll start off with you, Neal, and then we'll go to Kevin, and then we'll go from there. Okay, listen, we all saw what his potential was last year. We got a taste of his ceiling in this offense. Where are you guys at? Will Tua insert himself back in the MVP conversation, albeit if he's healthy? Let's put that caveat out of the way. He's healthy. Do you think he gets back into the MVP conversation, Neal? You're muted, buddy. He's just going, eh?
Neal, you're muted.
Oh wow, that was a nice auto mute. I didn't even. But no, yeah. I do think there's an opportunity for him to do so because I think the level that we saw him play early on the season is what we're going to see more consistently from Tua as he gets a better grasp of the offense, as him and Mike McDaniel find some synergy in their play calling. I think that you will definitely 100% see that. I mean, I think I had him. I just put my prediction stats, but I think I had him at like 38 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Very efficient football. I think, obviously he's got a spoil of riches on the outside with Tyreek Hill and Jaelan Waddle. And I think Tua is motivated, man. I think he's confident. We could put that health kind of, asterisk out there, about any player really. I think Tua's going to come into this game Sunday specifically with a chip on his shoulder. And it's going to be fun to watch. But yeah, I think Tua's going to statistically fall around the top 5 quarterbacks in football when all's said and done.
Over 545 of you in the room, smash the like button. Kevin, what's your thoughts on that?
I think he will. I think it's more of a question if he can stay healthy. If he misses more than 3 games, you can probably kiss that discussion goodbye no matter what level he plays at the rest of the way.
Yeah.
But I think just in terms of level of play, if you're not going to factor the health into it, I think sure, why not? He was so good when he was at the highest of highs last year. So
yeah.
And if you can get the running game going on top of it, I think that only helps him. Maybe you lose some volume stats in terms of yards, but if he can be even more efficient, better in the red zone, I think that, raises his standard in that discussion.
Dougley, what do you think? I think,
the thing that we've heard all off season, it's the thing, it's the narrative for him is just his health. I honestly think that if he does play minimum of 15 games, he has his hiccups. There's no quarterback in the NFL that plays 17 perfect games.
Yep.
But he's on, and I said this, and I've been saying it. It doesn't matter if it was with Mike McDaniel, if it was 2021 with Brian Flores. When Tua Tagovailoa is on the field, the Miami Dolphins have a better chance of winning. And that is kind of an MVP, characteristic. So he just needs to stay healthy. And at some points, he kind of just needs to get out of his head. Like, to me, that's the 49ers game. He was a little bit too much in his head, whether it was the concussion scare or whether it was other things. He's just got to get out of his head. But every year he takes something from the previous year and he gets better at it.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed.
You know, check down Tua. Now he's pushing the ball down the field. You know, turn the ball over. Not turn. He always gets better. So if that's the case, and we've seen the past 3 years, him just getting better and better. Top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Like, come on, and that's what the Dolphins need. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs; they won the Super Bowl. They didn't have a great offensive line or necessarily a good defense. They had that elite quarterback playing. If Tua was playing elite quarterback play, watch out.
Dude, and you know, you make a great point because you know, one thing I've always appreciated about our quarterback, and I've always said, I think we've got one of the hardest working quarterbacks in the NFL, and it goes to what you said. He always identifies flaws that either he notices or expose, whatever the case may be, and then he works on them, and you always see him attacking his flaws every offseason. Like, you know, you gotta, that's why I don't get the hate, because you gotta appreciate the work ethic behind it to always get better and never just to settle that, oh, I've made it, blah 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 blah, right? So you make a lot of great valid points there. Ball game, Richmond, Martin, will go in that order, just flow off you guys. What do you guys think? Will he be in the MVP discussion?
I do believe. I do believe he was already in it last year. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't return. I think one of the biggest things is always going to be. I mean, it's always the same for all quarterbacks. To be truthful with you, how healthy can they stay? But I have him. I have him tabbed to be in the 42 to 4,300 range with about 37 touchdowns and 7 interceptions and 2 rushing touchdowns and about 130 yards. So. On scrambles and things of that nature. I think they're going to do a lot of different things that we didn't see last year. Obviously, a lot more things that we didn't see in the preseason because he's 100% healthy now, and I believe that they have the utmost confidence in him. So, you know, just let him pick up from where he left off at. And this offense is going to be scary, bro. I mean, it doesn't even matter what else they added to it. The fact that you got Jalen Waddle and you got Tyreek Hill out there puts defensive coordinators into a bad space anyway. So you add in the fact that if Tua can have a little bit of time with this offensive line, he'll return right back to the form that he had prior to the concussions. And then I think he'll be in the discussions, deeply in the discussions, and possibly win it too. Because the only thing that's going to stop him, really, in my opinion, right now, the only thing hurting this team is what could potentially be how healthy can they stay. You know, as long as they get out of their way and they just take it week by week.
You can say that for any NFL team too, right? That's what you love about the NFL. Like it's even in that playing sense, right? Richmond, Martin, what are you guys' thoughts on it? Do you expect him to get back into the MVP discussion if he's healthy?
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that took him out last year. I kind of agree with what everyone else has said, and to couple that, the team success definitely will help too. So especially if the Dolphins win the East Division, and he has good. You don't have to play every game, but if he plays majority of the games and just kind of stay on the trajectory he was last year, I don't see why he wouldn't. He lit it up early and everybody jumped on the bandwagon. I think the thing that everybody's just waiting to see, is he going to be healthy or whatever, change that narrative and just let the rest take care of itself. But I think a couple of people said it already. He's one of the hardest workers, and he continues to try to work and improve his game each year. So, yeah, he should be good. So, yeah, that's an easy one.
Oh, Neal, I just thought of our conversation because Dougley reminded me, and after we get through Martin, the segue is going to be beautiful. Neal, we're going to stir the pot a little bit. Martin, what are your thoughts on Tua re-entering the MVP conversation after what you saw in year 1 and what you potentially think he could do in year 2 in this offense?
Okay, Reason, make sure you hold on to what you got reminded of, because I'm about to shake things up a little bit. I'm going to say no.
Soliloquy? Oh, okay.
I'm going to say no. But it's not because of everything that you all just explained, because everything you all explained is 100% accurate. I think Tua is going to be considered a top 5 quarterback, but as far as the MVP race is concerned, I just see the MVP race being a three-headed, always a three-headed monster situation. And out of like the 3 guys I can just see being catapulted into those categories is Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, because he's going to be the second quarterback ever in Jets history to throw for over 4,000 yards and do all types of stuff with the Jets. I think Lamar Jackson is going to be catapulted into the MVP race since he was injured from last year. He's going to come back again this year with a better team. And the AFC North is arguably going to be the strongest division in the AFC, considering all four of those teams are stacked. Let's be real with that. And I think the Ravens are going to come out on top of that division. And then a surprise MVP.
Jeez,
well,
look at this guy.
I'm just saying a surprise MVP candidate that nobody probably won't expect is Justin Jefferson. I think Justin Jefferson is going to have over 2,000 yards receiving and 20 touchdowns this year, because the NFC is pretty much is going to be a relay for him, man. But those are the three candidates I can see as an MVP candidate this year, with Tua just being on the fringe as, okay, Tua played well enough to win the MVP, but just won't be in that three-headed, normal three-headed race.
I think the top three MVP candidates are going to be from the AFC. I think it's going to be a three-way race between Patty, Joey B, and Tua. Listen, I respect everything you said. I ain't going to argue with you. But you can't, like, in terms of Lamar, I've been out, you know what I mean? Like, I think his MVP days are behind him. That's just I expect his body to start breaking down, and that's just where I'm at with him or whatever. But all right, segue. Neal, big conversation. Let's ask this because of the expectations this year. I don't want soliloquies. Give me yes, no, and your extension of why. If Tua Tagovailoa wins a Super Bowl, do you and Richmond? You can go last, brother.
I can go first.
If Tua Tagovailoa wins the Super Bowl, do you put that over Dan Marino? Because we can all agree we're all older here. We've all watched Dan Marino. Do you put that over what Dan Marino did as a Dolphin? Because I wasn't old enough to see Bob Greasy, so I can't go there. But I'll tell you this. Let me step back. I'm a big-time Penguins fan. Everyone knows this, and this is what I said to Neal. Mario Lemieux is my Dan Marino. Okay, he's arguably the greatest goal scorer and puck hit. Like he's the most gifted big man, big power forward, probably to play the game. Like all around in terms of all of that, Mario Lemieux was next level. Okay, but if you gave me the same career trajectory and he didn't have his back-to-back Stanley Cups as a player, but then you look at where Sidney Crosby came in, and let's say Mario never became an owner of the Penguins, but we still got Sidney and everything still went the same way. Guys, listen, Sidney might be the best 100-foot player of the post-era lockout, but sorry, Mario, this man's brought me Stanley Cups. You brought me numbers, and they're fancy for arguments, but at the end of the day, gentlemen, banners matter a little bit more when you put the logo over the players here. And I can all agree, Marino's one of the guys where I say he's one of the guys you can have the argument because he transcends the logo to an extent. But I want to hear y'all thoughts, and we're going to start off with DouglieDoWrong and get his thoughts.
This is a hard question, man.
It is because I'm going to tell y'all, I'm give me a Super Bowl. Gentlemen, we haven't had a freaking playoff win in 20 plus years. You're going to bring me a Super Bowl. There might be unholy things I might be willing to do. Oh, okay. Dan Marino's the least of my worries on that list. You know what I mean? So where are you at, Douglie? Where are you at? If Tua brings you a Vince Lombardi trophy, where are you at with that? That's a real question.
I'd have to put him in a different category though. Like Marino's Marino, like they're talking about it now. If Marino was playing now, forget Patrick Mahomes. Like he would be breaking records left and right. He's throwing like 6,000 yards a season. Like he was way ahead of his time. He just, he didn't have the team. We all know the excuses. I'm not going to go down the list of excuses. But if Tua Tagovailoa brings us a Super Bowl, he is pretty much Jesus to the Miami Dolphins. It is what it is. We haven't won one since the 70s. So to me, it'd be like Tua would get a statue, but it'd be like on the opposite side of the stadium where Marino is, because it's like it's two different. It's Marino, and then all of a sudden you're like, and it's Tua. Like they're like,
I'd want a McDaniel and Tua statue, to be honest. Like
exactly.
That's what I would want, to be completely honest.
Like the Eagles.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd replace Marino, but I would definitely like.
No. We're not getting into the statue talk here. The statue stays.
No, not replacing it. But I'm saying like as like the greatest, like it would be like, hey, who's the greatest Miami Dolphin quarterback? I'd be like Tua Marino. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to just pick one because Marino did his thing and he overcame a lot. And now Tua got us a Super Bowl. It's like
ball game.
It's hard.
This feels
game.
so wrong.
Let me know.
Yeah.
It feels so wrong, bro. I watched the man, bro. Like, good Lord. And it would definitely change the land.
One of my first ever pictures as a baby is my dad holding me in his Marino jersey. My favorite number, 13. I'm tied to that man forever, but brother, what matters more to you? Winning?
Super Bowl,
or
gotta have
30
one.
years ago.
Yeah. The Super Bowl.
It's like,
the Super Bowl.
It's like asking who's your favorite kid. I mean, that's what it feels like, right?
My first ever animal that I
easy.
owned myself independently when I
It's
moved out, I named
It's my daughter.
Marino.
It's easy.
You know what I mean? Like,
we can all agree on this. The Miami Dolphins are probably as irrelevant of a franchise as there is in this league right now if we didn't have the Dan Marino era. Like,
well, let me get into this. Okay, we can all admit we're huge Ricky Williams fans.
Yeah.
If we got Jonathan, and we'll get into this in a second here. If we got Jonathan Taylor this year and he has a big season and we go to the Super Bowl, what y'all going to be talking about? Jonathan Taylor's big season with the Super Bowl or the 2-3 years of Ricky at an MVP level?
The Super Bowl.
And Ricky's arguably the greatest running back we've all seen in our lifetime to don it.
Right.
Other than a couple of guys on this panel, we weren't old enough to see Zonka.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to say? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the next up, right? So,
Pretty much.
you know, hold on.
Ronnie Brown.
I want to hear
Reggie
Richmond.
Bush.
Kevin. Yeah. I want to hear Richmond. I want to hear Kevin Martin. Richmond, you protected the man. You're also a huge fan of the team.
I'm a huge fan. For me, my answer would be no. Mine's probably more personal than anybody because I played with Dan.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that a lot of times fans get caught up in, and it's just been the narrative, even when Marino played, is football is a team sport, and the quarterback is probably the most important position on the field. But one person doesn't win the game. It's a collective effort. So, I mean, I agree with it would be a hell of an argument, this and that, but for me, I'm gonna always ride Marino because I played with him. Yeah. That was my teammate. I love Tua. I love his work. I love everything about him. But if I gotta make a choice, I'm going with 13 every time.
This guy wins 2 in 3 years. We ain't even having this conversation ever again. It's over, buddy. It's over. It's over. Put the statue up. That's what I'm saying.
My son said this is like talking about. This is like talking about Rodgers and Favre, bro.
Yeah.
It's true.
My son said this is like talking about Rodgers and Favre.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm Rodgers all day on that. I'm Rodgers all day, but who am I, right? Kevin, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know you were around. You've seen it.
Yeah. I would just say, like, you look at what Marino did. He changed the way the game was played and how people thought of the quarterback position.
Yep.
He literally rewrote NFL history. Broke all of Fran Tarkenton's records.
That's what makes this a great argument, brother.
Yeah.
Like,
but I'm also saying, like, look, Trent Dilfer has a Super Bowl trophy to his name.
Whoa!
I'm not equating Tua to Trent Dilfer.
Okay. Let me know when Trent Dilfer's ever in a 12-game stretch where everyone's like, "Yo, that guy's an MVP, brother."
Right.
You know what I mean?
So you're going back to the stats now, which is what you're not doing.
But that's part of the argument if you think about it. So, because we all just basically agreed he would have an MVP season. So I was segueing off that. If he's playing at an MVP level and we win a Lombardi, that's basically.
And then I would say, to piggyback off what Richmond said, this is the best Dolphins roster we've had since
early 2000s.
2002. Like, I don't think that Marino ever played on a team comparable to this total level.
Since the Sport Illustrated cover where everyone just looked at it and said Fiedler don't belong on that thing. That's probably one of the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'd love to see him win a Super Bowl, but like I don't think unless he wins like multiple, I don't think he's ever going to surpass like Dan's status. He changed the game.
Right. But I'll tell you this, buddy, he'll be a god in that city if he wins.
Yeah, no,
I never have to pay for another deal ever again. Martin,
go ahead, Kevin. Go ahead, Kevin. I also think Tua, this kind of reminds me of a situation that's close to home. When I worked for Anthony Munoz, Carson Palmer was the Bengals quarterback and had some pretty good seasons, took them to the playoffs in 2005, had that knee injury. And one thing that Anthony said stood out to me, and it kind of reminds me of how Tua is. Like, he said Carson could have owned the city of Cincinnati, but he never stayed there, never did anything, like lived in California in the off seasons and all that. I feel like if Tua really wanted to, he could even be more.
Yeah, but I also think that injury derailed it too, right? Like big time, bro. Like
whose injury? Carson's?
Carson's, yeah.
Well, they came back and were pretty good the next year too.
I know, but bro, they looked like they were gonna win that year, dude. Remember that Hushmanzada? They had the what's his face out?
Chris Henry.
Chris
Johnson.
Henry. So that team was amazing. I thought they were gonna win
led the NFL in turnovers.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna beat the Steelers that game, bro. If it wasn't that low hit. Man, wasn't that the opening throw that he got hurt on was like an 80-yard or 60-yard bomb to Ocho?
Chris Henry.
Yeah.
Was it Henry? Was it
Chris Henry? Yeah. It was.
But,
that's a sad story too. That kid was talented. Anyways, sorry.
Yeah, he was. Out of West Virginia.
Kid's already got a full ride to Ohio State and hasn't done
it. Didn't Pac-Man look after him? Isn't Pac-Man?
Yeah, Pac-Man's his like legal guardian.
Pac-Man's his guardian.
They finally got him into a good school this year where he can play some teams. Anyway, I just think Tua could do, not that he could do or wants to do, but I think he could already kind of take ownership of that city. Like, who's the big sports star in Miami right now across all the franchises? Like Jimmy? But like, is he really like an A-list?
I know Messi.
You know?
Yeah, so Messi's the dude right now.
But I mean, that team's still in last.
Bro, tell me that Inter Miami kit ain't pretty. That pink, that thing is pretty as hell, man.
Yeah, it is. All pink.
Is it true that their stadium's next to the garbage dump?
I have no idea.
I've heard that from people.
It is.
Okay.
City of Miami. Yeah.
All right, Martin, where are you at on this?
Honestly, I everything about Dan Marino I've studied. You know, Oakland, Catholic, Pittsburgh. You know, sliding in the draft. Everything about Dan Marino is a magical story, bro. I love Dan Marino. But I'll tell you what, from what Tua had to deal with coming into the league, you know what I mean? Broken hip, unsure if he's ever going to play again, you know, unwillingly drafted by the Dolphins when it comes to Brian Flores. Brian Flores never really entrusting Tua always having doubts up and down, and then boom, you know, Mike McDaniel comes in and pretty much rejuvenates him. If Tua rides this wave into a Super Bowl, it's hard to say he's not going to surpass Marino when it comes to how Marino, on the other hand, obviously fell in the draft, which is unfortunate for him, but he was drafted into a Super Bowl situation when it comes to the Dolphins. After their 1982 run, they lost to the Washington Redskins and then selected a A1 quarterback that was ready out the box. So it's a little different when you talk about both scenarios. And Marino took full advantage of a coach in Don Shula that had full confidence in him. So I'm just saying if Tua were to overcome all of what he had to deal with coming in from the very beginning and win a Super Bowl,
wow,
I mean, what we're gonna have to tip our head and say, okay, this guy might be on that trajectory. So
yeah. Reason, if I could jump in on one thing, because I've seen 2 Super Bowls here in Baltimore. 2000, no one talks about in Philadelphia. They always talk about Ray Lewis, but then in 2012, they do talk about Flacco. He had that amazing run. And if you ask,
he beat Eli's run, right? He was the one he broke Eli's run, right?
If you ask a Raven fan here, as good as Lamar Jackson has been the last few years, people will tell you that they'd rather have a guy like Joe Flacco who can win in the playoffs than a guy who wins the MVP in the season. Yeah. But I do think one thing for sure is that Tua winning a Super Bowl right now is the best story that could happen in the NFL because of all the stuff that he's been thrown at. Like what, you know, with the Burrow and the Herbert and where he ranked and the injuries and all that. With that said, if I'm at Publix getting a chicken tender sub and someone shoots at Dan Marino, I'm sure as hell jumping into taking a bullet for the man. I love Dan Marino. Any man that's not my blood, I've never, the only man I've ever.
Let me put it this way: you know why I know you'll hold Tua in a higher regard, Neal, because there ain't never no time you're going to be more inebriated than when Tua brings you a Vince Lombardi compared to what Marino ever did for you in your life. That's why I know you're going to
I'll
hold him.
I'll probably be in a Las Vegas jail for a few days and have a lot of time to think about it. That's for sure.
All right.
Lord.
I hope that happens.
Let's start with you, Neal, because I think it happens, brother. I mean, we got to the numbers. Me and you had kept telling people, hey, it wasn't about the numbers, it was about whether Irsay was willing to play ball. You know, had the Packers mystery team. We knew about another team negotiating going on there. You look at this whole Jonathan Taylor thing. We knew, right, putting the pieces together to when, you know, I had found out that there was contact regarding Taylor. We started piecing together that basically we pivoted off Dalvin Cook to focus in on this Jonathan Taylor situation. Listen, I think they're too knee deep. So I'm going to say yes, but where are you at? Do you think we acquire a Jonathan Taylor? I mean, the price might go down because Derrick Henry's now going to be dangled, albeit he's not going to be as young, et cetera, et cetera. But I think, you know, Neal, whether we're 5-3, 4-4, I think they revisit this, and I think they go once again all in. And if we're 7-1, 6-2, somewhere in that neighborhood, count your days till we get someone. Because Neal, I was told Jonathan Taylor doesn't expect to play another down for the Indianapolis Colts. You know, hamstring injury after he comes off the pup. If they try and put him out there, he can't even come off the pup until the beginning of October. And he won't. And the trade deadline's at the end of October. You know, I've heard, you know, his camp leaked the Green Bay and the Miami Dolphins were willing to make him one of the highest paid running backs, not only to help the running back market, but also show their frustration that two teams were willing to step up to the plate. One, who arguably have a top 12 running back in Aaron Jones, and they have a young guy who's just been knocking on the door every time he gets touches. He's awesome. A.J. Dillon, who, remember, we wanted a couple years ago, Mr. Ballgame, in that draft. And, you know, and they were willing to basically package one of those guys with a draft pick. That's where the second round pick you were out ahead on, Neal, came into play, you know. And I told people, hey, remember, they wanted a running back. And if they didn't want a running back, they wanted an impact player. And that's why the names we heard were Hunt, Waddle, and Wilkins. They wanted that impact player because they didn't want no Mostert. They didn't want anything we had available there. What are your thoughts, Neal? I think we're too far gone. I think they're going to continue sniffing this market. Where are you at? Do you think we add a running back by the trade deadline?
Yeah, I think if anything we've seen for the last year, they're hell-bent on finding what they view as a premier running back. And I don't think they had that thought of Dalvin Cook, but they sniffed around Josh Jacobs. They sniffed around Saquon Barkley. They made it well known that they were sniffing around Jonathan Taylor. So I don't think it's going to be Jonathan Taylor, because I just don't think that Irsay is going to be reasonable. I mean, when you're asking for Jalen Waddle in these trades, I don't even know if I pick up the phone and even waste any time with a guy that's thinking in that delusional line of thinking. The two names that I come up with is I'd keep an eye on Josh Jacobs, because I think the Raiders are going to be bad, like bad this year.
You think Aiden O'Connell is starting by the trade deadline?
Say it again.
Do you think Aiden O'Connell is starting by the trade deadline and they're just in full tank?
He could be. And the other name that I keep an eye on is Najee Harris. You know the relationship with Tua. I've heard a lot of rumblings out of Pittsburgh that they really, really like Jalen Warren, and he's outplayed Najee Harris the last 2 years. Keep an eye there, because there was a rumor being floated around at the trade deadline last year that the Steelers had made Najee Harris available. Nothing came to fruition, but there could be a guy that you can maybe have as a buy low type player. And, maybe it's something Tua pounds the table for due to his relationship. I mean, I still think the world of Najee. So I think the answer to your question is yes, but I just don't think it's going to be Jonathan Taylor. But I think that when they're looking at this roster in 6-7 weeks, who's going to be the last man standing? I mean, with all these injuries, like,
what about if Derrick Henry's available, because they got Tajay Spears and everything like that put on there, even with his, if you're just going to go short term.
Yeah, I'm not. Look, dude. If we get Derrick Henry, I'm going to be through the roof. It is what it is. Give me any of those guys. Saquon, I love Saquon. Give me Josh Jacobs. Even who a guy you just mentioned, who would be a buy low type player, A.J. Dillon. If the Packers were sniffing around Jonathan Taylor, what does that say they think about A.J. Dillon? I would love to have him, because we don't have running backs that can score touchdowns. Like, give me a guy like A.J. Dillon who can bowl in from the 6-7 yard line consistently, right? So I think there's a lot of names. I think there's going to be a lot of running back movement too, because the guys that are having, like the Giants, the Raiders, I'm not expecting much for them. And when you're in the last year of those 1 year deals and you've already had botched negotiations, Do you really want to go through it all again next summer, or do you want to go and get a premium resource for that trade? A premium asset. So,
and did the Commanders make one of two between Ryan Robinson Jr. and Antonio Gibson available at one point?
Sure.
Like those are. And what's going to happen with that Saints backfield when Kamara comes back? Right, like it's packed. They drafted Keandre Miller. They signed what's his face, the
Williams.
kid from,
Jamal Williams.
Jamal.
Yeah. So what's going to happen there, right? So Chris Brooks and
There's
Nate are
options.
the only one standing by freaking the trade deadline, and they might be forced to make a move. Doug, what do you think happened?
I definitely think they make a move. Like, we kept hearing from them say, "Oh, we like our running back room," and then we hear from some fans say they don't need a running back. But then the Miami Dolphins come out and they try to get Dalvin Cook, and then they try to get DeAndre Swift, and then they try to get Dalvin Cook again, and then they try to get Josh Jacobs, and then Jonathan Taylor, and possibly Saquon Barkley. It's like at some point, there's enough times you get hit in the face, you got to realize, okay, they're hitting me in the face. Like they're trying to add a running back, and whether it be, God forbid, Tua does go down and then they can rely on the run game instead of the quarterback, or because, when we got to the red zone, we stopped running the ball. There's multiple reasons why they were doing it, and it just makes sense that they're not going to stop since they started in March and they couldn't pull it off. So, we hated for how long Dalvin Cook and then for how long Jonathan Taylor. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with it until October because there's going to be more rumors and news.
Yeah. And especially if we're winning, they're going to be even more pressed to find that finishing piece and that touch. Like, Kevin, what do you think?
I actually go back to that interview that Mike McDaniel did with Michael Silver way back. I think that was either right before or right after the draft. And he said one of the things he learned from Mike Shanahan was to buck the trend in the NFL before someone else gets on the train. And we've seen that with the running back market. Everyone's running back by committee and not paying guys. Well, if you have that position solidified with someone, I don't know that it would necessarily be Jonathan Taylor at this point for the reasons that everybody's mentioned, but I would really Alvin Kamara is the one that probably intrigues me the most, just how he would fit in this offense. I don't know what that – I'd have to look at his contract situation. I don't know it offhand, but I think they will – unless the season goes belly up from the start or something, I think they'll add someone. I don't know that it's Jonathan Taylor, though.
Yeah. Like, before I get to ball game here, like, Neal, the reason why I think Jonathan Taylor is still going to be in play is because of this. Like, I don't think they expect to win with Anthony Richardson, so they're going to want more chips to build around him. And the key is if Irsay lets Ballard GM, because the sense I got that if Ballard could do what he does, Jonathan Taylor would have been traded to one of us. He would not be a Colt anymore. Like, this is Irsay stepping in. Like, I know that Destin Adams guy tried to quote tweet you, whatever, but Irsay, it was even, you watched the Ballard press conference after they didn't move Jonathan Taylor. It was clear that Irsay had his hands in that business. And I think they're just going to get so fed up with the pup list and him not wanting to play. And especially we got to hope if Deion Jackson takes off and they say, just get rid of him, it's going to be real interesting. But that's why I think Jonathan Taylor is still going to be in play, because I think that thing's just irreparable, and they're going to try and get what they can get with it for him before there's nothing left to get. So,
that would be, I would, if I could have my pick of all the names that we've mentioned, Jonathan Taylor would be the number one guy on my board that I would want.
Like, I don't even think they're entertaining Kareem Hunt and all those guys right now, because
I don't either.
They got visions of one of BallGame. What are your thoughts? Do you think they had a JT or someone like that?
Yeah, I think they've proven to us that they're willing to go out and negotiate and try to bring one of these top backs in. The good thing about it, I believe, is that they're not trying to do what everybody else is doing. So they're gonna go with what's best for this organization and this team to try to close this window and get to the promised land. And it's good to say that they care about the guys and they like the guys that we have in the room. But, we all know, and those guys also know, that they're not premier guys in the league. And if you can get your hands on one, you go get one of those guys. And it is what it is at this point, right? We're in that window. You got Tyreek Hill, you got a Waddle, you got Tua healthy. You need your hammer, man. Yeah. You need the guy that you can turn around and hand the ball off to 20, 25 times a game if you need to. That's the kind of game you got to play, and he can handle that. and go out there and give you exactly what you need. And none of those guys in the room, other than maybe Chris Brooks, but he's unproven at this point, have proven that they can do that or even can stay healthy. So, yeah, I believe they do add a back. And I do believe that at some point the Colts will have to look at themselves in the mirror and just say, you know what, guys, we screwed this one up. We got to let him go. This is not helping us. You can't force the man to play for you. And at a point where you've already said that you don't value him, that relationship's done. So you get what you can get for him, and then you move on from it. And, you know, you continue to be the dumbasses in the NFL because you ruin Andrew. You ruin Andrew, and you let Jonathan get out of there without being felt appreciated. So that's
great point.
That's what they've done, right? And who's been there the entire time in the midst of all of this?
Irsay.
Exactly. So
yep,
it is what it is. So
they ruined Peyton and sent him off packing, and he won one just to shove it in their face. I love it. Love it. Richmond, Martin, your guys' thoughts? Do you think we had a running back by the end of it, by the trade deadline?
Yeah, I think like Dave said before, I think they are happy with the running back room. I think the only situation is it's almost like having a pitcher that can just throw a fastball. So I think they know they need a change-up running back, and you definitely need that during the playoffs. So, like you say, if you can get a guy that can move the chains and pound it out, and sometimes where you don't have to throw the ball, eat the clock up, keep your defense off, and don't give the opponents an opportunity to get back out on the field. It's almost like Kansas City did in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. When they scored their last, they wanted to make sure they didn't leave enough time, and the way the offense was designed, they could do that. So I would love to have somebody like Taylor or something, but I think they still looking and they still seeing who's going to fall through the crack. But I think we still in the market for a running back, but not the type of running backs we have on our team currently. It's going to be somebody with a change up to more physical style running back.
What do you think, Martin?
Yeah, if it comes, I think by the trade deadline, it probably just comes down to performance. If these guys if we have a bottom 8 rushing attack by the trade deadline, absolutely, we're trading for one of these running backs, whether it be Najee, whether it be Taylor, whether it be like how you said, Alvin Kamara, pretty much looks like an outside looking in type of guy. I think we trade for one of those players to get that boost. But if we come out and we like Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert, A-Chain comes back, if we come out and we're still running like a top 8, top 10, top 11 offense, I think it makes it a little bit harder to try to shake up that room if those guys are producing, as a running back by committee. But if there's any drop off, if there's any fall off, if there's any regression, absolutely, they're going to be trading for a running back come trade deadline.
All right, so let's get into predictions here, and then we got a couple rapid fire questions. We'll get into it. I made a little fancy video. We're gonna go by bunches here for all of y'all. So let's full screen this right now. So we're gonna start with Martin here. So Martin, you got us 11-6. You have us losing to Buffalo, New England, LA, and the Jets, and then you have us losing to Buffalo twice. You dirty dog. And then there's other. You're not alone though with your prediction. Kevin Dern decided to play. You guys are Mr. Pessimists right here. He has us losing week 1, week 2. Sorry, he has us losing. I apologize. He has us losing. Yeah, he has us losing to the Chargers, to the Bills, to the Eagles, to the Kansas City Chiefs, to the Jets, and to the Ravens. You both have us 11-6. Let's start with you, Martin. You really think you think after what you saw last year that Buffalo's going to sweep us?
I think everything is going to boil down to timing. Because if like I said, for week 4, if I'm not mistaken, if we're going to Buffalo, week 4, I just think that's a difficult game to go into Buffalo, considering that's Buffalo's I think they'll still be at pretty much full strength as well, and we still haven't like conquered them. You know what I mean? Even as close as the games have been, I still haven't seen it yet. So that's why I'm like I can't go and say we're going to beat Buffalo. So at least for week 4, I have them losing there. But by the time we get to week 18, the reason I have us losing that game is because I think we'll be in the playoffs already, and I think we're going to rest our guys so we can start preparing for whoever we're going to face come wild card weekend.
I don't know, brother.
If it becomes that.
10-6 going into week 18. I'm playing for seeding, brother. I ain't benching not a single soul.
But if you don't have the number 1 seed and you might not win your division, I don't know if the seeding really matters from that point, right? I think it's more just preserve players.
And you think
Von Miller in week 4,
and you got the Raiders beating us too.
Yeah, but the reason I have Las Vegas beating us is more so tied to, okay, we potentially lose in Germany, we have a bye week, and then we come back off that bye week trying to win a game to get off that L. And I think Las Vegas just comes in and surprises us, and I think back-to-back losses like that will stir something up for us to say, okay, that enough is enough, and then we'll start really going at these teams, down the last stretch of the season.
All right, Mr. Dern, you got us opening up with a loss. You got us starting off 2-2. Actually, to be honest with you, you got us starting off 4-3. As you keep going, you got us starting off pretty rough. Actually, to be honest with you, 5-4, and I can already hear the apocalypse on Twitter and social media. That start, especially the first week. Oh my God, I don't want to be on Twitter if that happens. So, what's your thinking here in terms of you're just not liking the first half of the schedule?
I don't like the long road trips. Miami obviously didn't handle it last year very well. Lost back-to-back out there. Yeah. The Chargers, honestly, that was kind of a toss-up for me with the Dallas game. If you want to flip those, I wouldn't argue with those. I don't know. Just something about it doesn't feel right. They shut our run game down last year, despite how bad their run defense was, and I don't think they had Bosa or Derwin James in that game. Does Teron Armstead play? If he doesn't, I don't like Kendall Lamb and Austin Jackson versus Bosa and Khalil Mack very much. The Buffalo game, I don't know. Pick them. Philly, I think their pass rush could pose a lot of problems with us. The Germany thing, logistics. Friday game on the road for the Jets loss. Cold weather game in Buffalo at the end, or Baltimore at the end of the year. That's kind of just how I saw it.
All right, so let's keep it rolling here. Let's get into the 12-5 section, starting off with Doug. Doug actually starting off real nice here, starting off 5-1. He has a loss to Buffalo, again a loss to Baltimore. Newsflash: we all picked us to lose to KC. He's got us losing to Philly as well, and then the Jets as well. And then continuing on here, because he wasn't the only one on the 12-5 section. We've got Neal. He's got us again starting off 5-1 and then losing to Philly and KC. He's got us losing to the Jets and the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, Neal, I'm going to start to you. You just had one of your best memories ever of that win in Baltimore. And are you just assuming that this is going to be cold and we're not going to be able to handle it out in Baltimore?
No, I think that we've got him the last 2 times we play him, and John Harbaugh's, he's petty, and I feel like the Ravens, they're due to get us in one of these games. I don't think necessarily this is the best version of the Ravens, but I do think going to the bank week 17, both teams will probably be playoff teams or at least playoff bound, it appears, and I just think they could get us that, potentially. Now I do think Vic Fangio can scheme pretty well against the against Lamar Jackson, and I'm banking. You can see by my trajectory of wins here in the second half of the season, I think this defense is just going to hit a whole nother level when Jalen Ramsey comes back. So that's where, me having them go 5-1 or 6-2 in the last 8 games. I just think once you get that X factor back, this defense is going to be nearly impossible to figure out.
Dougley, you have pretty much the same expectations. Philly, the KC loss, the early Buffalo loss, the Baltimore loss. And brother, you really think we're gonna lose? Listen, okay, here's the thing. I gotta ask you this. Do you think we're gonna lose to New York? Do you think Aaron Rodgers is gonna outduel Tua? Because here's where I'm at, and this is why, because you guys are gonna be surprised about my predictions here. Listen, wouldn't you agree that it took Tua Tagovailoa getting concussed for Aaron Rodgers to start playing on his level last year? 100%. Do you think Dalvin? Let me ask you this too. If they wouldn't have got Dalvin Cook, do you think it would have been a sweep?
No, I still think that the Jets have a pretty good team.
Okay.
I think with the addition of Aaron Rodgers is why I have a split with them. If they didn't add Aaron Rodgers, say they added Derek Carr, I would have a sweeping them. I think the addition of Rodgers is what is going to just propel them a little bit, and especially just because they're home is why I gave them that slight edge over the Dolphins.
All right. After Neal, we've got the legendary and incomparable Richmond Webb at 12-5 as well. Now, you'll see a lot of similarities, except you'll see one difference. I put the Dallas loss because Richmond said, I got the Buffalo loss, the Philly loss, the KC loss, the New York loss, and I think we're going to have a loss at home. I picked Dallas for you, brother. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, at home it was tough. I think the thing with me is the key question for me is how healthy does our offensive line stay? And if they stay, I would feel more comfortable. But kind of like Neal said with Baltimore, I kind of thought about that, but I just didn't want to put us losing 5. All my losses were away, and I was like, I don't want to put 5 away losses and none at home, and then I just couldn't really figure out the home game. But I'm thinking 12-5. I think we win the division. The only question I have is, can this offensive line hold together, sustain, and be consistent to where we don't have a bunch of musical chairs, guys moving in and out, because that could be a key factor in either slowing down some of the success I think we can have or whatever. I think the defense is going to be over the top, especially when we get Jalen Ramsey back. So the Dallas game was late. I think that's Christmas Eve, something like that. So I don't have an issue with that one. But that was a tough thing trying to pick a home game, because I think if the team plays the way they are, I think it's going to be really tough to beat the Dolphins at home. So that's why I was like, man, I don't know who to pick.
Ball game. 13-4. You have us only losing to Buffalo in week 4, Philly in week 7, KC in week 9, and then you have us splitting with the Jets as well. Winning our division, I take it, ball game?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I just think because we have to see, we split with the Jets last year, and we were banged up and all that good stuff, and them adding Rodgers, they're gonna have a little fire to them, which is fine. And I'd rather lose to them away and then win at home as opposed to anything else. Splitting with them and splitting with the Bills still don't change the fact that we can still win the division, because we're gonna mop the Patriots, and then just handle business everywhere else. I think across the board, I don't worry about a lot of these squads like some other people do. Baltimore hasn't proven, Lamar hasn't proven to me he can stay healthy for 2 full seasons, so I'm not really worried about him. They still don't know what they got in quarterback down there in Tennessee, even though they're gonna ride with Ryan or whoever the case may be. I mean, hell, it might be what that boy name?
Will Levis.
Will Levis by then. So who knows? Washington's their shit show. Because they can't figure out their quarterback situation.
Damn, brother, what do you mean they got it figured? My boy Sammy.
Yeah, okay, nah. They don't have enough. Philly and Kansas City provide the biggest test for us, because that's probably who we'll wind up seeing. If we make it all the way through, we got to go through Kansas City to get there, and then we got to probably see Philly because they're the cream of the crop in the NFC. So I just don't think we're. I don't know, by week 7, you never know, but that team's loaded, man, and they got a lot of studs over there. And
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this ball game. Well, let me ask you this ball game.
Yeah.
Because I see what you have in the second half of the season there, and Neal brought it up earlier. You're the DB coach. What do you expect Jalen Ramsey to be at when he comes back from this injury? What you're not
dominant.
Expecting him to be? You're expecting him to be step right in and be dominant.
No. But I expect him. I mean, even at 85%, Jalen Ramsey is better than anything we've had in the last 10 years over on that opposite side of X, or any other cornerback for that matter. So him at 85% and getting himself back into the flow of things is probably better than anything we've had out there, and that's still enough to be able to beat and deal with and shut down 90% of the wide receivers in the league. There's only a handful of guys that I think across the board would ever one-on-one give him, a run for his money, and I don't see any of those guys. Devontae Adams is out there with, LA, but outside of that, the rest of these guys, I think he can handle them. Him and X together can handle any of these receiving cores, and I don't trust Dak, so Dallas doesn't scare me. So
680 of you in the room. Smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and call me Mr. Optimistic. But I have us finishing 14-3. I have our first loss coming. I have us losing to the Giants. I think the NFC East is going to be better than people expect. I have 2 losses coming from the NFC East. I actually think Washington is going to finish second in the NFC East and get one of the wild card spots. Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson, second year. I love Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, Jahan Dotson taking a second year step. I think they have a pretty good offensive line. I think their defensive front is very, very good. So and they've drafted pretty well, and they brought in Emmanuel Forbes. So I think Washington's going to take a lot of people by surprise. New York, I think, is going to catch us sleeping. If you want, we were talking about people in the MVP conversation. I got one for you. I think Saquon Barkley is going to be in the MVP conversation because I think he's going to have his best year, the best year to date. I think Saquon Barkley is going to be a monster this year. And then where I split with you guys, I cannot get down with the Miami Dolphins losing to both the Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. And I picked the Eagles. Why? Because it seems like they were the ones afraid of us when we were punching them in the mouth last offseason. And I can agree, they got a dominant front. But, man, again, Fangio knows the insides and out of what they like to do over there and the personnel other than what the new guys they brought in. So, listen, I got us finishing 14-3. I think this team is going to be vying for one of the top 2 seeds. So that's where I'm at with it, and I just couldn't. And if you'll notice, I have us sweeping the AFC East.
Right.
So you want to talk about bold prediction? Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
That'll be a statement if you sweep if the Dolphins sweep the AFC East, that's a statement.
We're making these projections based off of this team being healthy. When I look at our roster and I look at this schedule, if we stay healthy for 17 games, this is a 14 win. This is a 13 to 15 win team potentially. And we all said earlier, we agree we're going to upgrade our running back at some point. So this roster could get even better than what we currently see right now. So that's where I'm at with my prediction. So let's start. Let's do some rapid fire questions. Let's start with you, Kevin. Over, under. I've been telling people smash the over on Jaelan Phillips, 12.5 sacks. Where are you over, under Jaelan Phillips, 12.5 sacks this year?
Under, he gets 12, right on the nose.
You're a son of a. Ball game, where are you at?
I got him at, I have him roughly at about 13.5, so.
Over.
I think they're gonna turn him. I think they're gonna turn him loose. So,
Martin, over under.
Over 15.
Love it. Dougley, over under.
Under. I'm with Kevin. 12.
These guys. Richmond, over under.
I'm gonna push. I got 12.5.
I'm different. Yeah, I'm different. All right, Neal, over under 12.5.
I'm with Martin. I think he's going to get 15. Match the jersey number, like a lot of people are saying in the chat.
Love it. All right, let's go here. Who is your most underhyped Dolphin heading into the season? I got Robert Hunt because no one's talking about him and he's in a contract year, and I think we could see that next leap. Let's start with you, Martin. Who's your most underhyped Dolphin heading into this year?
Jerome Baker. I think adding David Long Jr. literally lights a fire under this guy because he's been a Brian Flores guy from the very beginning. And now that Flores is out the building, it looks like there's been a lackluster energy about himself. And I think David Long Jr. is gonna pretty much step out there like, no, I'm the best linebacker in this room. And I think Jerome Baker's gonna respond like, wait a minute, I'm the best linebacker. I think it's gonna be a healthy competition back and forth, and he might be the most underhyped guy when it comes to the type of play we're gonna see from him in that linebacker.
Tough battle because I think a couple of us think if he stays healthy, David Long could be a top 12, top 10 player at that position. So I love the answer, bro. Off the cuff. Neal, who's yours?
I'm stuck between two, but I'm going to go with one who's not underrated to us fans, but I think when you look at the national landscape it's Jaelan Waddle to me. I think Waddle's going to tear it up this year. I think the gap between Waddle and Tua is going to get minimized. And, all those lists where you see him being tier 3 receivers and shit like that, that's going to go away. I think Jaelan Waddle, really elevates and establishes himself as one of the best 10 receivers in this league.
Wow, she's getting so big, ball game.
Is that a cop-out answer, though?
No, that's good. That's good. Because I agree with that. Like, I think, we'll talk about him later, where I think about him. All right, Kevin, who's your most underhyped?
I think this will surprise you, and I'm going real hipstery with this one, but Eric Ezukama. I have a very well-placed source that has informed me that he's probably going to get all of the snaps that Trent Sherfield had last year. And if you look at one of the trends of this whole Shanahan, McVay, McDaniel offense, they're trying to play 12 and 21 personnel with 11 personnel on the field. Yep. So if you watch a lot of the short splits, nasty splits, being point man on the bunch with the crack tosses and stuff, Ezukama's pretty much the only big body receiver we have. He may not be like the number 3 guy in terms of targets, but I think he might be number 3 in terms of snaps played.
And I think he's going to benefit when they get in the red zone a little bit. I think he's a sneaky one, man. Dougley, who's your most underhyped?
I had a few names, but I'm like, I don't think they're really, underhyped. Kind of like, Braxton Berrios. I don't think he's underhyped. A lot of people are talking about it. So I really dug down while everyone was talking. I'm going with Durham Smythe. I think he's actually going to be the Anthony Fasano type in this offense. And you're going to be surprised. He's not obviously not going to be stretching the field. He's not Travis Kelce. He's not these guys. But once you get in that red zone, he's going to be able to catch those balls that Tua throws to him, and he's going to get those touchdowns, those 5-6 yard touchdowns in the red zone. And he's, blocking out. All of a sudden, we need a 3rd and 4. You just dump it off to Durham Smythe. We saw him do that a few times last year. So to me, really digging down, but I think an unsung hero is Durham Smythe, especially because, the tight end coach said the only guy who's safe right now is Durham Smythe. It might be for a reason. They might see something they really like out of him.
Ball game.
AVG will turn out to be the dog we always needed over there for that linebacking core, along with David Long. And unfortunately, I'm probably wind up pushing my boy Jerome Baker out of this situation and get himself a new contract. He's going to be a stalwart, and he's going to be a face over there on the defense for the next 4-5 years. Probably the only guy over there that they can move all around all them different spots, and he's going to excel at it. So AVG is going to be my guy, man. That's the guy I think is going to shock the world, make a huge leap in the conversations about being one of the best linebackers in the league, right there next to David Long. So
Richmond.
at the expense of, unfortunately.
Yeah, I thought about AVG, but I chose Cam Smith. I think with I think he's going to get some opportunities. I think he's going to accelerate a lot faster than what people think, and it'll give Jaelan a little time to come back. But I really like that kid, and I think if Fangio uses him the right way, he could be really, really, really productive. So I went with Cam Smith.
Okay, Richmond, let's come back to you. Who's your most overhyped Dolphin? Because mine is Tua, not for expectations, but because of the concussions. The concussions with Tua, to me, have been overhyped. I'm sick of hearing it. It's not like this is a lingering thing he's had his whole year. So my most overhyped is Tua, but Tua's concussions, not Tua or his expectations himself. Who's your most overhyped Miami Dolphin?
I didn't have one, and I'll tell you why. I just don't like the word overhyped, because it's almost like you're not as good as they're saying you get. So I got an underhyped, but I didn't. I was thinking I don't really see no. But I agree with your point with Tua based on the injuries, but I think the work ethic and stuff, like it's because of the injuries, but the way he puts in the work, this and that. But I couldn't come up with an overhype, but I came up with an underhype. Wait a minute,
Right.
come up with an underhype? Yeah, okay, no, we just went through underhype, didn't we?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't come up with an overhype. I got the other one. I'm sorry. Yeah. So
I think it's Tua's concussions. That's what I think it is. All right. So Neal, who's your most overhyped?
I mean, unfortunately for me, it's going to be Emmanuel Ogbah, just because the player's never going to live to that price tag. You know, you're paying him, $17, $18 million a year. You're playing him premier money. I don't think he's going to get premier snaps. I actually think that, him playing standing up is going to actually hurt what I thought of him. I like him with his hand in his dirt. He plays the run well. I don't like him standing up in space as much. So I would probably say that it's probably going to be Emmanuel Ogbah. Not that my expectations are sky high, but when you look at, ROI in that contract, I don't think the Dolphins are going to get a good ROI there.
Kevin, who's your most overhyped?
Oh, this is going to get me killed. Cater Kohu.
Ooh.
So I'll say this. I think if you leave him in the slot, he's a phenomenal player. If you have
agree.
to put him on the outside,
I like this answer.
he got into trouble
Yup.
last year. So that's why. Otherwise, I would say the backup quarterback situation. That's
Yeah.
What backup quarterback situation?
Yeah,
People are winning jobs in concussion protocol, not playing for weeks. I don't know what's going on there.
So.
Ball game. Who you got? Muted. The mic's overhyped.
Tyreek.
Ooh, Jalen Waddle. You think Waddle takes it, huh?
I think Waddle takes the throne. Yeah.
There you go, Neal.
I do.
Another playoff. What you were saying. There you go.
Yeah,
Ooh,
I do.
I
I think there's going to be a passing of the baton. You know what I'm saying? And Waddle going to step to the forefront, and then Tyreek is going to be hell of a, they're going to be, obviously they're a hell of a duo, but it's time, right? Because eventually Tyreek's going to be gone anyway, so he's got to take over. So, and I think he's poised to do such. So, yeah.
Martin, who's your overhyped?
Jalen Ramsey. I'm going Jalen Ramsey. Not because of his ability. I think the injuries are going to play more of an issue than we're actually admitting. And not only that, because the cornerback room is so deep, like Richmond was saying, Cam Smith might be one of those guys that kind of steps up. I don't think they're going to play Jalen Ramsey as much as they would have if the cornerback room was thin, as far as depth. So I think Jalen Ramsey might be an overhyped kind of player because he won't play as much as we would have assumed he would have this year, based off of the injury concerns and unsureties. So that's mine.
Yeah, I think Cam Smith's got the makings and the tools of I think he can play that star role eventually that Jalen Ramsey keeps telling us other guys on that defense can play. I think Javon Holland's got the tools where he can play that star role. What Kevin brought up about Cater on the boundary is what pauses me on saying that Cater can do that. So we'll see how it plays out. Dougie, who's your most overhyped player?
I've been talking about this man last year I've been getting crap for talking about this man, but it's Connor Williams. His snap scare the crap out of me. Yeah. And I was talking about it all last offseason.
Yeah, people unfairly jumped on you when you pointed out, well, they moved the goalpost on you, Dougley, when they're like, oh, well, it hasn't cost us yet when he's done. It's like, come on, bro. Doug's right.
Exactly.
You're just trying to move the goalposts on him that he's right. Yeah,
and then this offseason, he's doing it again. And then people, I had people coming after me. Hey, he's a top 4 center. Pass blocking and run blocking, great. I love Connor Williams, but his snaps are, and you don't have to lose the ball for it to affect the play, especially in this style of offense when there's timing. If the quarterback has to jump up for the ball to the left or the right, it's going to mess it up. So for me, Connor Williams, I love him. I just would love to move him to left guard.
What did I say all last year, Martin? Remember? Connor Williams is an all-pro after the snap. That's what I said all year. He's an all-pro after the snap, man. That's what he's an all-pro.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's a fact, man.
So let me start. We'll go from bottom to top. Martin, starting with you, and you can choose one for offense and one for defense. And this is where it comes in for me, Neal. My breakout player of the year is obviously Phillips, and I agree with you in BallGame. I think Jalen Waddle is the breakout player in terms of, I agree with what you guys are saying. I think the baton gets passed and we start gearing up towards that extension because, it starts this year, I think. I think they can break the receiving record together, even with Berrios, I think, has a career year because he has the best quarterback play he's had since he's been a pro. But I think Jalen Waddle is going to make it a lot closer. And if they're going to break the record, boys, I think it's going to be like an 1,800, 1,700 or a 1,900, 1,700. I don't think Tyreek hits 2,000. But let's start with you, Martin. Your breakout player or players, one on offense and one on defense, or just pick one for this season for the Miami Dolphins.
I'll go with one. I'm going to say Cater Cole. I'm with Kevin. I don't think
– Fight words, Kevin. Here we go.
I don't think Cater Cole is a good boundary corner, but in the slot, he might be the most dominant. And I'm talking, tackling in the open field, blanketing every slot receiver, making plays as far as PBUs in the middle of the field. I think by the time the season ends and the Dolphins are where you assume they will be reaching at 14-3, I think Cater Cole is going to be highlighted as one of those players on defense that everyone in the league is going to look at like, okay, this might be the best nickel cornerback in the NFL when it comes to, whether it be PFF rating or whatever it might be. I think he might be the guy to kind of solidify himself as a key component in this defense and probably in the NFL. So Cater Cole might be. I think he's going to be a breakout guy.
Richmond, who do you got?
It was between two players, but I went with Javon Holland over Jaelan Phillips. I think Jaelan Phillips going to have a great year. I think he was so close last year that I think a lot of those he was close, he's going to get there. But I chose Javon Holland. If this defense with the pass rush Chubbs and Phillips can put, this could be an Ed Reed type season for Javon Holland. I mean, he's a ball hog. That's I only had one, but that's what I came up with, Javon. That's what I went with.
BallGame, who you got?
So, to be honest, man, I think the guy that's going to benefit the most on offense from Hill and Waddle is Berrios. In the intermediate areas of the field, because I don't think there's going to be too many teams that's going to be able to have a guy to match up with him and what he can do, coming in and out of his breaks and stuff. And with Tua's accuracy, that guy's probably going to eat like he's never ate before in his life. And so he's my offensive guy. And then on defense, I looked at the stats, bro, and it was undeniable that Raekwon played a huge part. Raekwon Davis played a huge part in the run game success. And he might very well, if he can put a pass rush together, he might very well be a reason why we don't even worry about bringing Christian Wilkins back, to be honest with you.
Ooh,
he's playing for a contract, right?
That's true.
And
that's true.
Stats don't lie, bro. The boy was pretty. without him in there, the run game suffered, the run defense suffered, and then he wasn't inserted in there. It improved a lot. So those two, I'm gonna go with the, definitely.
BallGame. Do you think the Dolphins are going to have 3 1,000-yard receivers and Berrios is going to have a breakout year this year?
I think that's very possible. And I think that's one of the reasons why I don't think Tyreek hitting 2,000, because Berrios is going to eat a lot of them. He gonna be open a lot, bro. And Tua, it will definitely find you if you're open. And the goal is to move the chain. So
exactly,
as open as he's probably going to be working the intermediate areas of the field, man. Yeah,
career year, it's coming, man. I'm telling you. Yeah. Kevin, who you got?
Well, Richmond stole mine. It was Javon Holland. If you've watched what Fangio did with Justin Simmons in Denver,
beautiful. Yeah,
Holland's a much better athlete in my
opinion.
Agreed. Simmons. So I think there's just so much he can do. You're going to see him play closer to the line of scrimmage. You're going to see him come on blitzes.
I'm getting my Oregon Javon when they used to play him on the boundary, in the slot, in the box, everywhere, brother. He looked like Jamal Adams, bro, in his prime with the
one
jet.
of the coolest things I've seen, and I think BallGame will appreciate this, is I looked up some Fangio stuff on first and second downs. Kind of the trend in the NFL now is to bring these creepers and these simulated pressures and stuff. He actually came up with Dom Capers, so he runs a lot of fire zone stuff and actually blitzes into 12 and 21 personnel a lot using overhang defenders or safeties. And I think Kohu, Jaelan Ramsey when he comes back, Holland, Brandon Jones, those 4 guys are going to really enjoy this system. But I think Holland benefits the most.
Love it. Dougley, who you got?
So on offense, I have Tua. I think Tua, yes, he had, a good year, but obviously the injuries kind of held him back from what he could have done. So I think he really breaks out this year. I think, he plays a minimum 15 games and just lights it up. And he shuts a lot of people up. He earns the contract. I'm putting the good vibes out in the universe. He earns that contract. We get that playoff win, all that stuff. And on the defensive side, it's my guy. People call me a Tua stan, but actually I'm a stan for this guy, and that's Jaelan Phillips. I love Phillips. I love his motor. The man runs people down. He's on the right side of the field to run all the way to the left side of the field to make a tackle on a running back. Love him. Like I said, 12 sacks. I think he's going to have a ton of play because what Vic Fangio is going to do, he's going to stop dropping him back into coverage, and he's going to pin his ears back a lot, and he's going to be like, just go get the quarterback. Use your speed. Go after him. And I'll probably have him play some spy on some of these speedy quarterbacks. So those are my 2. I really think that Phillips is going to really show everyone who he is, and then Tua, again, earn that contract.
Neal, who do you got?
So I was going to go with Javon Holland, but since, Kevin and Richmond both did, I'll pivot because I think when you leave this season, we have Jaelan Ramsey, Xavier Howard. I think that league-wide it's going to be known that Javon Holland's the best defensive back on this football team. That's what I think. I think, I think the year that Holland was supposed to have last year got derailed because of injuries and he had to do some different things. I think he'll be more comfortable doing it. But I'm actually going to go for a guy who's not breaking out in the NFL, but breaking out for the Dolphins, and I'll go with Bradley Chubb. I think Bradley Chubb is going to be comfortable playing with Vic Fangio. I think he played better than advertised. A lot of people look just at the stats on ESPN.com and wanted to see, and if they didn't see a number they liked, they judged him. I think Bradley Chubb is going to be huge into freeing up Jaelan Phillips' success as well. So I think Bradley Chubb's going to have a really good year and might be the best defensive player on this team when all said and done. And on offense, I'm not going to give up on our guy yet because I think he's going to make the most of his touches. And with Jeffrey Wilson down, I think Chris Brooks is getting a lot of love because he played well in the preseason, but let's not, crown him yet. I think Devin Achane still got a lot of big plays in him this year, and it might be more of a Darren Sproles type of role initially for him, but I think he could be a guy who could find some mismatches on linebackers, and if he catches the ball in space, those are going to be big plays. So I think Devin Achane, even if we trade for a running back at the deadline, can complement that player so well that, for me, I would say that he's my offensive breakout guy.
Love it. All right, let's go through it. First of all, just quick programming. I'll be back tomorrow with Richmond and BallGame for the finish line. Then I'll be live with Neal tomorrow. We'll figure that out, but anywhere between 7:30 and 8:30, we'll be live tomorrow night. Then I'll be back with Neal because we're going to be talking Chargers, Dolphins, all that. Then Friday, I'll have my preview show. Sunday, we will be live reacting to the game, and then we'll have the fourth quarter post-game panel show about 15 minutes after the game ends, which will be for you guys to all come up, vent, or celebrate how the game on Sunday goes. Final thoughts, gentlemen, before we get out of here. We are going to start with you, Martin. Go ahead.
Yeah, man, it's time, man. Season's here. It's time. We got a whole off season to prepare for this revenge game, week 1, and it's gonna be sweet, man. I think we're gonna go to the West Coast and sea walk all over Inglewood. we gonna get something done over there, man. I think it's gonna be a big time win for us over there, and obviously throughout the year, I hope and I pray that these guys just stay healthy, play smart, play fast, play for each other. And I can see this team really going far. If they just stick to it, forget about the outside noise. Whatever's going on in that locker room, keep it close knit and in tight. And sky's the limit for this team, man.
You ready for next week? Our first Tua Tuesday back.
Tua Tuesday. Oh, you ready for that? Hey, let's get it, man. Let's get it. It's about time. It's about time, man. They got to see it. Yeah, I'm ready with it.
BallGame, final thoughts?
I think the talking time is over now at this point. They just got to go out and treat every week like it's the last, focus on each and every opponent. Don't look ahead and just take care of business week to week. And I think that the way they've constructed this roster, I mean, it's thin in some places for depth, but you got premium players, man, who have done some amazing things in this league. They just got to stay healthy, and I think that everything will work itself out. Nothing like being talked about, right? That's always a good thing, but now you got to go out and prove people right about the things that they've said about you. Some people have changed their tone about this team and actually have us actually being the last man standing in the AFC to face whoever's in the NFC. I believe they have that capabilities, and I just believe that they just need to go out and execute now at this point. So Mike has to stay out of his own way, right, and trust and rely on the coaches that he brought in to do their jobs, and then the players just stay healthy, man, and just go out and execute, and it'll be all good. So, fins up, and I think that there's going to be some amazing things happen this season.
Kevin, your final thoughts?
I just wanted on record, David Long was my other candidate for breakout player. I'll just say, really excited for the season to start. Hopefully they can go out to the West Coast and get a dub. That's kind of
I can't wait to have you around this season, bro. No nights.
So new job, new situation. So we're good.
Nice.
Haven't been this nervous on a Tuesday night for a Dolphins game in a while.
Brother, honestly, guys, I already know how Sunday's gonna go. We're gonna be nervous wrecks watching the 1 o'clock games. You're gonna wish to yourself, man. What is a lot, Kevin? You might know. I think if anyone has a chance of knowing up here, it's either you or Neal. When is the last time we started a 4:25 game on a Sunday? Do you guys remember?
2016, Seattle.
See, I knew it. See,
the Kenny Stills drop.
Oh God.
Oh, okay. Well, guys, why do we gotta always go down memory lane like that? I just asked the time.
That's how I remember that game.
Holy geez.
No, I'm excited. I already promised my daughters we'd take them to the zoo Sunday morning, so I can just kill that time before 4 o'clock.
Smart man.
He's gonna be watching fantasy. That's what we'll be doing.
This will be
Dougley.
27th zoo trip so far this year.
That's amazing, bro. Hopefully you got the season pass.
Yeah.
Dougley, what are your final thoughts before we get out of here, brother?
I think we're all pretty nervous about this. We just can't start. We can't lose this game. We just really can't. From the crap we'll get on Twitter, and then from the naysayers saying "I told you so." I don't even care if it's a 1-point win. We need to win. I want to just continue the success. I want Mike McDaniel to show that he learned from his rookie mistakes with the time, with the bad challenges, the penalties, all that stuff. Learn from his mistakes, and he got better. Just like Tua, learning from his mistakes, got better. He did something that Brian Flores didn't do. He saw faults in his coaching staff, and he put in vets. Goes out and get Vic Fangio. Butch is now your offensive line coach. He's a smart guy. So hopefully we can put this together, and we can start winning. And we have games where we're not biting our fingernails off, because we had a lot of those. Yeah, they're fun afterwards, but during it, oh geez,
wreck,
I'm on blood pressure medication now. So come on.
Oh Lord.
Oh my Lord! Don't be dropping dead over a Dolphin game on YouTube, brother. That stream keeps running till someone notices, brother. Make sure you're good. Neal, what are your final thoughts, brother?
I'm going to do something I've never done before in my 35 years of being a fan of the Dolphins. I joined the community back in 1998, I believe it was, getting on the message boards and all that fun stuff. I've never done this, but I think this is the year that the Miami Dolphins win a Lombardi Trophy, beating the Eagles 30-24. And there's two things that really lead to me. I believe that the roster construction, while it's top heavy, there's so much star power that it's hard to ignore that this team is really relevant. And I do think to Douglas' point, it's not just going to be nail biter field goal games. I feel like we're going to win some games convincingly and be different. And I believe that karma is a bidirectional thing. And I think good people get rewarded for good stuff. And I just think what we've seen Tua put in the gas tank this year is going to be rewarded. All the people that have been there for his journey in the NFL that stood by him. And I think we're all going to be rewarded from it. And I just truly believe there's a swagger about this team that I haven't felt in 20 plus years, like really that long, where I'm coming in. I'm not going to lie and say that I never picked the Dolphins to make the playoffs, but there are years when I did it and I'm like going to bed at night, like, man, I have to finagle my way into that one. You know what I mean? And like this time, I guess I just believe in the quarterback. I believe in Mike McDaniel. I believe in the Vic Fangio.
Yeah.
I think the
Tyree. It feels like I said to Ghost on Twitter, Neal, it feels like I put the new day intro. It's a new day. Yes, it is. Because I said it feels like a new day. Yes, it is. Because I feel like everyone's trying to use years past. And even last year when McDaniel, let's be honest, with all the injuries we were ravaged for a quarterback on our back end, should we even have made the playoffs last year? No. That team would have folded like a bad lawn chair in the wind under Flores. You know what I mean? And under McDaniel, he got him in.
Well, let's just look at numbers, right? So we were 9-8, made the playoffs last year. Tua's got a career winning percentage of 64%. That means he wins 3 of those 5 games he missed, which means we win 12 games. Like that to me is math. And like it's not that perfect in the NFL, but I think this team underachieved considering the talent they had. But when you lose your starting quarterback for 5 games, like if Patrick Mahomes doesn't play for the Chiefs for 5 games, they're probably losing all 5 of those games.
And the injuries to our back end was ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, I'll make a bold prediction here with you, Neal. Yeah. I think the NFC Championship is going to be the Eagles and the 49ers. And I think the AFC Championship is going to be the Miami Dolphins and the Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to get knocked out in the round before. So I think it's going to be Burrow versus Tua and Hurts versus Purdy or / Darnold. And another thing here, like, guys, you remember how daunting we thought that early part of the schedule was last year, and this team came out and just blew the doors off the teams, and it literally took concussions to slow our roll, really, even with the injuries we're getting on the back end. Brother, I don't think those concussions are going to be a factor this year. We've seen how he's tucking and he's rolling, and he's already making it basically muscle memory. You saw him practicing it in the preseason. If we come out with that same, I expect us to come out with that same tenacity, that same fire, and winning games the same way we were. And let's be honest, if that concussion didn't happen, and also who dropped the touchdown before Tua threw the pick in the Cincinnati game?
Chase Edmonds.
Yeah, and he was literally forcing the throw after the Bengals offense got that. I think this is a whole different trajectory for the season, for that game, et cetera, et cetera. So, man, that's why I legitimately think like I think it's a different era. I think it's a different regime, and it feels different.
And mind you, Tua kind of looks like a Ninja Turtle every time I see him kind of get pushed aside, and he's doing like ninja rolls and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's how you do it, Tua. Get out of there, man. Protect yourself, man. So,
man, I don't know, boys. All I know is we are not too far away from meaningful football, and it all starts on Thursday, and then we get busy on Sunday. Man, I appreciate all y'all for coming through tonight. Great show, great insight. I hope everyone enjoyed it. We ran a lot longer than we usually do, but I appreciate all y'all for sticking by. Again, tomorrow night I'll be live with Richmond and BallGame for an episode of The Finish Line. And then on Thursday, me and Neal will be live. And then on Friday, we'll be previewing the game on Sunday, just me with y'all. And then live reaction on Friday, as well as the fourth quarter post-game show. And then Martin will be back next week. And I'm working on something. Hopefully I can have it shored up, and we're going to have a little change to the programming schedule, hopefully this season. So I'll wait till that's sewn up and I can announce it to all of y'all. But appreciate all you boys for coming through. Always a great conversation. Next year's going to be year 5. So I hope to see all y'all back for that one. That's going to be a little bit of a milestone. So, appreciate y'all coming through. Smash that like button. Still over 620 of you in the room. We got up to over 700 tonight. Appreciate y'all for coming through on a Tuesday night. And go subscribe to Douglie if you aren't, but we already know you are. And be out on the lookout for the rest of these individuals. I'm sure Kevin will be coming back through and through too, because we did a bye week roundtable last year with all you guys. So be on the lookout for Kevin. Catch him on Dolphins Talk Weekly on dolphinstalk.com. And until next time, everyone, appreciate y'all. And fins up, baby. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Peace.